Do you want this or that? This or that? Let's talk about why people are leaving Florida, once the hottest spot for retirees and sunseekers, maybe now something a little bit different. While many are still looking at the Sunshine State as their next destination, there's been a noticeable shift. Increasingly, people are reconsidering Florida and opting for neighboring states like Georgia. But why? Today, we're going to be talking about why people are leaving Florida and coming to Georgia instead. Let's get into it. Florida's population has ballooned in recent years, with Florida being the #2 most moved to state as recently as last year, 2023. This rapid growth has led to overcrowded beaches, longer commutes, and that overall relaxing lifestyle that many people initially moved to Florida to enjoy has become a bit congested. Cities that were once sleepy coastal retreats are now highly developed hubs filled with tourists, newcomers, retirees. Because of those crowds, Florida's infrastructure is struggling to keep up. More people means more pressure on the roads, schools, and healthcare facilities, with longer wait times for services and more competition for all of those resources. Is Georgia any better? Maybe a little bit. Certainly Metro Atlanta is continuing to boom, and Georgia is on the rise for places people are choosing to call home. What were once more rural locations like Woodstock, Canton, Ackworth, and Cumming are being developed very quickly, and has a lot of people concerned whether we have the infrastructure to accommodate all of those new residents. Another huge factor is the cost of living. Yes, Florida has no state income tax, which is still a huge draw for most people. However, the overall cost of living, especially in popular areas like Miami, Tampa, and Orlando, has increased significantly. Housing prices have skyrocketed, pushing many people out of the market altogether or forcing them to downsize dramatically. The pandemic brought an influx of people from states like New York and California, which further drew up demand and prices. Now, even homes in traditionally affordable areas are out of reach for many. It's not just housing prices that are increasing, though. Florida's property taxes have also risen significantly, driven by the rising home values, and the big one, homeowners insurance and flood insurance rates have spiked, with Florida having the highest cost of homeowners insurance in the US. So many insurance agencies have fled the state, and from a profit standpoint, it makes sense. They are paying out more and more for damages and losing money, so a lot of them just stopped insuring the state altogether. Less competition means that prices go up. This is significantly affecting the housing market, as lots of closings are being delayed, either because the insurance agencies want to check on any hurricane damage before agreeing to insure the home, or closings are being canceled altogether because the home can no longer get insurance because of the hurricane damage. Recent example. So Helene comes through and the closing is delayed because the insurance company wants to check on any damage before issuing a policy. And then here comes Hurricane Milton and the closing is delayed again because the insurance company wants to wait and see if any damage is going to be caused. Talk about adding stress to an already stressful situation. Now, let's talk about the weather. It's one of the main reasons people move to Florida in the first place. Sunshine and beaches, what's not to love?
Yes! Crab cakes and football! Nice. That's what Maryland does!
But surprisingly, relentless heat and humidity aren't for everyone. While the thought of escaping the brutal winters of the north may seem appealing, living in a place where it's hot and sticky for most of the year is cutting the steering wheel a bit too far to the other side, perhaps. A lot of people who move to Florida for the weather find themselves missing the changing seasons. Sure, they don't want snow, but they also don't want to deal with scorching heat all year long. That's why many are looking to states like Georgia, where they can still enjoy warm summers, but also get a taste of fall and spring. We get actual winters here, but you don't have to shovel any snow. And if we do get snow, the whole place shuts down. We are completely unprepared. Hurricanes are another major factor driving people away from Florida. The constant threat of hurricanes, especially during the late summer and fall, is a significant source of stress for many residents. Just look at Helene and Milton recently. Even if your home has never been damaged by a hurricane, the constant worry of evacuation orders and the possibility of your home being destroyed is exhausting. The cost of repairing hurricane damage can be astronomical, and the insurance often doesn't cover everything. For many, the idea of living in a place where they have to constantly worry about hurricanes, flooding, and skyrocketing insurance costs, it just isn't worth it. Here in Metro Atlanta, we really don't get natural disasters. No earthquakes, maybe a small tornado touchdown every 5 years. Hurricanes don't come through here since we're so far inland. That certainly was about to change with Helene recently, but sure enough, it veered off to the east of us. We also don't worry about flooding or being in a flood zone necessarily, because a lot of the rolling hills and high elevation, there is almost always a place for the water to go. Even with lakefront property, like on Lake Allatoona or Lake Lanier, you don't really have to worry about flooding because the water level is continually controlled by the Army Corps of Engineers. Florida's political climate has also played a big role in people's decision to leave the state. In its history, Florida has shifted from being a swing state to a much more conservative-leaning state. Now, Florida is known to be pretty one-sided. It's been a solid red state for about 70 years now, and Governor Ron DeSantis has implemented a number of policies that have drawn national attention. In fact, that's a big reason why a lot of people are still moving there. For them, Florida represents a haven where they can live according to their beliefs without government overreach and are drawn to the state's conservative leadership. But that's also why some people are leaving. The state is swinging more and more to one side. Georgia, on the other hand, is very split, famously swinging blue in the 2020 election for Joe Biden, in addition to electing 2 Democratic senators, Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff, despite having a Republican governor, Brian Kemp. Does that mean that Georgia is a blue state? No, not at all. In fact, I think the beauty of Georgia is that it's so split down the middle. It tends to feel pretty normal because a lot of our policies are fairly moderate, and you're very much in community with people on both sides of the aisle, making it much less of an echo chamber. All of these factors, rising costs, political tension, and natural disasters, are having a noticeable impact on Florida's real estate market. During the pandemic, Florida was one of the hottest real estate markets in the country. People flocked to the state from all over, bidding up home prices and creating intense competition for available properties. Homes were selling within days, sometimes hours, often for well over asking price, and bidding wars were the norm. But times have changed. The demand has cooled and the real estate market is beginning to balance out. Inventory has increased by 57% in the past year, meaning there are more homes available for buyers to choose from. This has shifted the power away from sellers and back to buyers, who now have the luxury of shopping around and even negotiating for a better deal. How about that? Price drops have become more common and sellers are offering incentives to close deals. But just because there are more homes on the market doesn't mean they're cheap. Mortgage rates are still high, which means monthly payments are steeper than they were just a couple of years ago. Buyers are finding that while home prices may have come down slightly, the cost of financing those homes has gone up, making it harder to afford the same lifestyle they could have had just a few years ago. Is Georgia faring any better? No, actually, we're seeing very similar things happen here as well. More and more sellers are listing their homes, whether they're upgrading or downsizing. In both states, it looks like home values continues to stay strong in the more popular areas, while the deers are going to be found? No. While the deals are to be found farther away from the metropolitan. Renting isn't much better. Cities like Miami, Orlando, and Tampa have seen some of the highest rent increases in the country, with Miami's rents jumping 30% in just 1 year. This has left many residents scrambling to afford the rent payments, let alone save up to have a down payment for a house. A lot of Floridians are looking to Georgia as an alternative, which still has a ton of great amenities, but is almost 10% cheaper in average rent prices, in addition to having larger square footage on your living space. If you need any help finding the best location for you in Georgia, my name's Joel. I'm a local realtor here in the metro Atlanta area. I would love to help you buy or sell your next home here. My information is below in the description. You also see it here right at the bottom of the screen. Call, text, or email. I'm always happy just to have a conversation or answer any questions. So, are you moving to Florida? Or are you ready to check out the peach state of Georgia? If you're moving to the Southeast, which one would you choose? Did I miss anything? Drop it in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. And if you're in the market, please give me a call. I'll see you in the next one.